The Thaw. For 15 years, Vex had lived in hell, not the fire and brimstone hell of human myth, a concept his logical mind found absurd, but a hell of constant, overwhelming sensory input, a biological hell. Earth was a wet, noisy, teeming, and utterly filthy world. The air was a thick soup of pollen, moisture, and trillions of microbes that his suit's filters worked constantly to repel. The ground was not the sterile, predictable plasteel of a Cathar ecology. It was a living, breathing thing of soil and rock that shifted and groaned. And the humans were the worst part. They were walking ecosystems, radiating heat and scent and emotion in a chaotic, unfiltered torrent. As a junior xenobotanist on the Imperial Will, Vex's life had been one of order, purity, and data. Now he was a consultant at the Thule Research Outpost in what the humans called Iceland, a place chosen specifically for its violent geology and resilient, strange life. He was a prisoner, forced to share his knowledge with the very primitives who had defeated his fleet. His human counterpart was a woman named Dr. Alara Vance. Like all her species, she was a biological paradox. Her mind was sharp, capable of understanding the elegant logic of Cathar genetic sequencing, yet her motivations were hopelessly irrational. She would waste energy on smiling, a pointless baring of teeth. She would form friendships, inefficient social bonds based on emotional whims. And she was always touching things, her bare hands running over rock samples and plant leaves with a tactile curiosity Vex found both reckless and repulsive. "Look at this, Vex," she said one cycle, holding up a piece of volcanic rock where a patch of brilliant green moss was growing. "Life, right here on the cooling lava, it doesn't wait for perfect conditions, it just begins. It is a simple organism exploiting a temporary thermal gradient," Vex stated, his voice flat and filtered through his helmet's external speaker. "Its existence is illogical, it will be consumed by the next flow." "Maybe," Alara said, her smile unwavering, "but it's here now, isn't that amazing?" Vex did not find it amazing, he found it inefficient. It was the story of this whole planet, a chaotic, pointless cycle of temporary life and inevitable destruction. The storm came without logical precedent. The planet's magnetosphere, usually a reliable shield, buckled under a wave of solar radiation, and the weather systems of the North Atlantic went mad. Winds that could tear the armor from a Cathar shuttle slammed into the Thule outpost. The facility, built with hybrid technology, was strong, but the storm was a force of pure chaos. "Shield integrity at 82% and falling," a human technician yelled over the howl of the wind. "The geothermal anchor on the East Biodome is reporting stress fractures." The logical Cathar protocol was clear: seal the East Biodome, sacrifice the assets within to guarantee the survival of the main facility. It was a simple calculation of acceptable losses. "We're going to lose it if we don't reinforce that anchor," Alara shouted, already pulling on a heavy-duty environmental suit. "The Asgardia moss specimens are in there. They're our best hope for a terraforming catalyst." "The risk to personnel is unacceptable," Vex stated, observing her actions with cold detachment. "The logical course is to seal the dome." "Logic be damned," Alara shot back, her eyes flashing with that fiery, irrational emotion he detested. "I'm not losing 5 years of work, I just need to get to the external junction and reroute the power flow to the secondary supports. It'll hold them." "The wind shear will tear you from the gantry," Vex said. It was not a warning, it was a statement of fact. "Then I'll be quick," she said, sealing her helmet. He watched her leave, a part of him expecting and almost hopping for the inevitable outcome. It would be a perfect data point on the fatal inefficiency of human emotion. But another part of him, a new and unwelcome variable in his own mental equation, felt a flicker of something else. The loss of her intellect would be a significant detriment to the project. That was it, a logical concern for a valuable asset. A piercing alarm blared. "Anchor integrity at 40%, it's going to collapse." Vex found himself moving. He told himself it was to observe the failure firsthand. He donned his own EV suit and followed Alara out into the screaming chaos. The world outside was a white fury. Ice and wind scoured the gantry, and the sound was a physical blow. He saw Alara, a small figure fighting against the storm, almost at the junction box. A massive piece of ice torn from a nearby glacier slammed into the gantry just ahead of her. The metal groaned and twisted. She was cut off. The logical action was to retreat. But Vex saw the data, the collapsing gantry, Alara's position, the force of the wind. He also saw the solution. An illogical, inefficient, and deeply human solution. He anchored himself to the rail and unspooled his own emergency tether. With a powerful leap, a product of Cathar physiology in this laughably low gravity, he crossed the damaged section, landing beside her. She stared at him, her faceplate illuminated by the flashing red emergency lights. "You are being illogical," he yelled into his comms. "Welcome to the party," she yelled back. "Help me with this conduit." They worked in the heart of the storm, two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, a study in contrasts. She was improvising, her movements quick and adaptive. He was precise, his actions efficient and powerful. He hated the chaos, the sheer tactile violence of the wind and ice. But as he held the heavy conduit in place while she rerouted the power, he felt another flicker of that strange variable. It wasn't about preserving an asset anymore. It was about the shared struggle, a partnership. With a final spark, the secondary supports engaged, their deep hum a counterpoint to the storm's shriek. The groaning of the biodome subsided. They had done it. As they stumbled back inside, Alara pulled off her helmet, her face flushed with adrenaline and victory. "We did it, Vex, we actually did it." Before he could respond, she did something utterly alien. She threw her arms around him in a brief, powerful hug. The contact was jarring, a violation of his personal space, but the emotion behind it was unmistakable. Gratitude, partnership. Later, as the storm began to subside, Vex stood alone, looking out a viewport at the ravaged landscape. His internal processors were still trying to reconcile the data. By all logic, Alara should have died. The dome should have been lost. But her illogical defiance, combined with his own illogical assistance, had resulted in success. He looked at his own hand, still feeling the faint echo of her embrace. He had always seen emotion as a fatal flaw, a bug in the code of organic life. But what if it was a feature? What if the chaos he so despised was not a weakness but the very engine of their impossible resilience? The ice outside was beginning to melt in the first light of the rising sun. And inside Vex, for the first time in 15 years, something cold and hard and certain began to thaw.